Let's be honest, when it comes to getting permanent residency in Australia, it can sometimes feel like applying for a golden ticket in a Willy Wonka factory, only with more paperwork, longer wait times, and fewer chocolate rivers. You've probably heard the term EOI thrown around a lot. That's expression of interest for those new to the game. It's basically how you raise your hand and say, "Hey Australia, I'd love to live here permanently. What do you think?" But here's the kicker. Not all EOIs are created equal, and more importantly, not all states treat EOIs the same. In fact, where you apply makes a huge difference to your approval chances. So in this video, we're diving deep into the EOI approval rates by state in 2025 and why picking the right state could mean the difference between getting your visa sorted or still waiting when the next Olympics come around. Let's unpack it as we look at state by state. 1. New South Wales. Let's start with New South Wales, Australia's most in-demand state. Sydney's appeal hasn't faded, and neither has the competition. New South Wales receives more EOIs than any other state, but it also has one of the lowest nomination rates. In 2025, it's estimated New South Wales received over 60,000 EOIs across all occupations, but only around 6,500 applicants were nominated, putting the approval rate somewhere below 10%. Unless your occupation is on their priority list, or you've studied or worked in New South Wales, your EOI may not stand out. New South Wales wants evidence of commitment. Think local experience, study, or regional ties. So, unless you're a software engineer working in Parramatta or a nurse in the Illawarra, it's easy to get lost in the queue. 2. Victoria. Victoria, home to Melbourne, has always had a "we'll call you if we like you" attitude, but this year things have slightly shifted. Victoria is still picky, but now a little more transparent. It invited an estimated 7,200 applicants out of about 40,000 EOIs in 2025, which gives it a rough approval rate of 18%, better than the New South Wales, but still a bit of a gamble. Victoria has focused on STEM fields, healthcare, and teaching in 2025. So if you're in tech, research, or medical professions, you've got a fighting chance. Otherwise, you might be waiting a while, with a perfectly brewed flat white in Carlton. 3. Queensland. Now, here's a surprise. Queensland has quietly become one of the most efficient and responsive states in 2025. Brisbane's not just about sun and surf anymore. It's attracting talent. In 2025, Queensland received an estimated 18,000 EOIs and approved around 4,000. That's an approval rate of 22%, making it one of the most generous states this year. The state continues to favor regional applicants under the 491 visa, and if you've studied or worked in Queensland, especially outside Brisbane, your odds go up. Fun fact: occupations like chefs, civil engineers, early childhood teachers, and diesel mechanics were in high demand this year. Moral of the story? Queensland is open for business if you don't mind the heat and an occasional cane toad. 4. South Australia. This one's a favourite for people in the know. South Australia isn't flashy, as it doesn't have Sydney's skyline or Melbourne's coffee snobbery. But when it comes to skilled migration, it's become one of the most consistent and practical states. South Australia receives an estimated 8,000 to 12,000 EOIs and approves an estimated 2,500 to 3,000. That's around 30% approval rate. Why so good? They've got a big regional quota, a clear occupation list, and a points-based preference system that actually works. They're also a bit more generous to offshore applicants, especially for regional visas. So, if you're willing to move to Mount Gambier or Port Augusta, South Australia could be your ticket in. 5. Western Australia. Western Australia has been gradually shaking off its reputation as the hermit state. In 2025, it's become more active in skilled migration, especially for healthcare, trades, and education. Perth might not be the first place people think of, but Western Australia is pushing to attract new migrants to fill labour shortages across its vast geography. EOI stats for Western Australia is an estimated 8,000 to 10,000 EOIs, with 2,000 to 2,500 estimated nominations. That's an approval rate of around 25%. The bonus? Western Australia often includes a wider variety of occupations, especially trades, agricultural roles, and mining-related skills. Plus, less competition compared to the East Coast. You might just find yourself moving faster here than elsewhere. 6. Tasmania. Tasmania continues to punch above its weight. Over the years, Tasmania receives fewer EOIs of around 5,000, but approves nearly 2,000, putting its approval rate at an impressive 40%. Why so high? They reward commitment. If you've studied in Tassie, worked there, or lived there for a year or more, you're on solid ground. Tasmania's system is transparent, point-based, and well-documented. You don't have to guess what they want. They'll tell you. So if you're okay with cooler weather, smaller cities, and a strong sense of community, Tassie could be your golden ticket. 7. Northern Territory. The Northern Territory is probably the most underrated region in the entire program. Yearly, they receive an estimated 2,000 EOIs, but approves around 1,000. That's 50%. It's not for everyone. Life in Darwin or Alice Springs is different from the East Coast cities. But if you're after a low-competition, high-opportunity pathway, Northern Territory delivers. They've got critical shortages in construction, healthcare, and education, and if you've spent time there, your application jumps the queue. The Northern Territory wants people who are serious about staying, not just visa-hopping through. But if that's you, this might be the fastest route to PR in the country. 8. Australian Capital Territory. The Australian Capital Territory has a unique approach. It uses a Canberra matrix system, which scores applicants based on local employment, study, English skills, and more. Yearly, the state invites around 2,000 plus people out of an estimated 7,000 EOIs. That gives it an approval rate of 33%. The good news? If you live and work in Canberra, your matrix score builds fast. The bad news? If you're offshore or not based in the state, it's not really a practical option. But if you're already there, or planning to move and build your points, the process is structured and relatively fair. Offshore versus onshore. Who's getting the edge? In 2025, the trend is clear. States still prefer onshore applicants, especially those with local work experience or study. However, South Australia, Tasmania, and the Northern Territory are leading the way in offshore nominations. These states are actively addressing population shortages and skills gaps by looking abroad. So, while it's still tougher to get nominated from overseas, it's not impossible, especially if your occupation is in high demand or you're targeting a less crowded state. If you're stuck in EOI limbo, it's time to be strategic. It's about strategy, timing, and choosing the right state. Treat it less like a lottery and more like chess. Make the right move, and you'll get the result you're after. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your EOI. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and drop your questions below. We're here to help you make sense of the chaos.